Arizona and California are two states that share a border in the arid Southwest, yet their stories couldn't be more different. While California has skyrocketed in population, becoming an economic powerhouse and cultural icon, Arizona, with its vast deserts and stunning landscapes, remains significantly less populated. So, why do so few Americans live in Arizona compared to California? Why do you think California's economy boomed in comparison to Arizona's? And could Arizona be one day as populated as California is today? In this video, we're going to deep dive and answer all these questions. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you love learning about the fascinating quirks of American geography and how they shape our country. Now, let's dive in. When you look at California and Arizona on the map, it seems like these two states share a lot in common. Both are in the West, both are known for sunny weather, and both have iconic desert landscapes. However, California is a sprawling powerhouse with a population of nearly 39 million people, while Arizona lags behind with just over 7 million. So, what's going on here? Before Arizona and California became modern states, their histories were shaped by indigenous cultures and European explorers. But how did these early foundations set the stage for the stark population differences we see today? Let's take a look back at how it all began. Before Europeans arrived, both Arizona and California were home to a variety of Native American tribes, but their populations and lifestyles were quite different. California's indigenous peoples, including the Carrick, Maidu, and Mojave, lived in one of the most culturally, linguistically diverse areas of pre-Columbian North America. By the time European contact occurred, California had an estimated 300,000 inhabitants spread across various tribes and language groups. Meanwhile, Arizona's native history is dominated by ancient civilizations like the Hohokam, Mogollon, and ancestral Puebloans. While these cultures flourished between 1000 and 1400 AD, they eventually disappeared, leaving room for other groups like the Navajo, Apache, and Hopi to settle in the region. Compared to California, Arizona's population was more sparsely distributed, reflecting the harsher, arid landscape that limited large-scale settlement. When Europeans first arrived in the 1500s, the paths of Arizona and California began to diverge. In 1540, Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado made his way through Arizona in search of the legendary 7 cities of gold. Spoiler alert, he didn't find them. There was a gold rush in the late 1700s, but nothing compared to California's. Anyways, the region remained sparsely populated under Spanish control, with little European interest. It wasn't until the late 1800s that Arizona began to see significant settlement, and even then, its remote desert landscapes weren't exactly a magnet for pioneers. Meanwhile, California's story unfolded quite differently. By the 1700s, the Spanish had established a string of missions along the coast, starting with San Diego in 1769. These missions became centers of agriculture and settlement, attracting settlers and laying the groundwork for what would become modern California. The coastal region's temperate climate and fertile lands made it ideal for colonization. One major reason for California's population boom was its rapid growth following European colonization. As California's missions grew, they attracted settlers and transformed the local economy, especially with agriculture along the fertile coastlines and central valleys. In contrast, Arizona's early European presence was met with resistance. The Pima Revolt in 1751 was one of the many uprisings by local tribes against Spanish settlers. Even when Arizona became part of the United States after the Mexican-American War, settlement was slow. Arizona's dry, arid climate, lack of water, and limited infrastructure made it less attractive for early settlers compared to California, which had established coastal cities and better access to water. California's gold rush, which began in 1848, was one of the most significant population booms in American history. People from all over the world flocked to California in search of fortune, and within just a few years, the state's population skyrocketed. In 1850, California was officially admitted as the 31st state in the Union. And by then, it had become a major hub of economic activity on the West Coast. Arizona, on the other hand, didn't become a state until much later, in 1912, over 60 years after California. While Arizona's economy would eventually grow decades later, particularly after the widespread adoption of air conditioning that made the state's blistering summers more bearable, it never experienced the same population explosion as California. Arizona and California may be neighbors, but their landscapes couldn't be more different. From California's vast coastline and fertile valleys to Arizona's rugged deserts and towering plateaus, geography played a huge role in shaping their populations. Let's explore how their terrains have influenced where people choose to live. California boasts a staggering range of landscapes, from the towering Sierra Nevada mountains to the lush Central Valley and sunny Pacific coast. This variety not only makes California one of the most beautiful states in the U.S., but it also provides a diversity of resources. California's Central Valley alone produces more than half of the fruits, vegetables, and nuts consumed in the United States. It's no wonder so many people wanted to live there. Now, Arizona is known for its dramatic geography, including the Grand Canyon and the Colorado Plateau, but its climate is another story. While parts of California enjoy a Mediterranean climate, Arizona's deserts bake in the summer, with temperatures regularly exceeding 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Add the fact that Arizona is a landlocked state, and you start to see why people may think twice before settling there. When it comes to economies, California is a global powerhouse, while Arizona's growth has been more modest. From Silicon Valley tech giants to Arizona's expanding industries, these two states have taken very different economic paths. But how have these differences shaped their populations? Let's break down the impact of their economies. Arizona's economy, while growing, is much smaller in comparison, with a gross state product of $508 billion in 2023. Key industries in Arizona include aerospace and defense, mining and tourism. However, it lacks the sheer diversity and global influence of California's economy. As a result, fewer people are drawn to Arizona for job opportunities, and the state's population growth has been more gradual. In contrast, California's economy is nothing short of monumental. Home to Silicon Valley, the entertainment industry in Hollywood, and the thriving agricultural sector, it ranks as the fifth largest economy in the world, outpacing entire countries. With tech giants like Apple, Google, and Facebook leading the charge, California's innovation hub has attracted millions of workers from around the globe. This influx of money has given the state more resources to provide one of the most important elements in sustaining a population. And that's exactly one of the biggest differences between both states. California has invested heavily in its infrastructure, including public transportation, airports, and renewable energy. Cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco have extensive public transportation networks, while Arizona's cities are more car-dependent. In Phoenix, for example, public transportation options are limited, and most people rely on cars to get around. California's extensive infrastructure helps support its massive population, while Arizona is still catching up in terms of public services, transportation, and water management, which is one of the most significant challenges both states face. Both California and Arizona depend heavily on the Colorado River for their water supply. But there's only so much to go around, and they have had fierce fights for this resource during the last century. The biggest conflict between California and Arizona has been over the use of water from the Colorado River. A century ago, the signing of the Colorado River Compact laid the foundation for how water from the river is used today. In the early 1920s, states in the Colorado River Basin grew concerned about their shares of water in the river. California was growing rapidly, and some feared it would establish priority access to the water. The compact was signed by delegates from 7 states: Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming, as well as a representative from the federal government, Secretary of Commerce, Herbert Hoover. All states ratified the compact except for Arizona. Its then governor said the compact put Arizona at a disadvantage because it would be forced to compete directly with California for water. Arizona later joined the agreement in the early 1940s, and the two states still face bitter disputes over water today. While the law of the river still governs water use, conditions have shifted drastically in the 100 years since the compact was signed. Hoover predicted the basin's population, which was about 457,000 in 1915, would quadruple. Today, the river serves 40 million people, more than 20 times his prediction. 7 states in the U.S., Native American tribes, and 2 states in Mexico. It also supports a multi-billion-dollar farm industry in the West and generates hydropower across the region. The real problem is that climate change is reducing the mountain snowpack that feeds the river and is also causing more evaporation. Warmer, drier conditions have thrown the entire basin into a 23-year-long drought that is ongoing. Rising awareness of water overuse and prolonged drought has driven intensifying dialogue among the 7 U.S. states sharing the basin's water, as well as between the United States, Mexico, and 30 tribal nations within the U.S. In 2023, the states of California, Arizona, and Nevada committed to further reductions in water use through the year 2026. So why do so few Americans live in Arizona compared to California? It comes down to a combination of history, geography, and economy. California's early population boom, thanks to the gold rush and its fertile lands, set it on a path to becoming the economic and cultural giant it is today. Meanwhile, Arizona's harsher climate, lack of water, and slower development have made it a less attractive destination for many. But Arizona is actually growing. One of the driving forces behind this surge is economic opportunity. Arizona has seen robust job creation, particularly in the sectors like manufacturing and technology. Major projects have played a crucial role in boosting the state's economy. For example, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, is building the world's most advanced semiconductor technology in the United States right now, in Phoenix. The state's lower cost of living compared to coastal states like California has also made it an attractive destination. With a thriving real estate market and a more affordable lifestyle, individuals and businesses alike are finding Arizona to be a land of opportunity. Cities like Phoenix are expanding rapidly, and with ongoing investments in infrastructure and industry, Arizona could see its population continue to rise in the coming years, potentially narrowing the gap with its coastal neighbor.